Hi there. I'm Casey Chisholm Miller, owner and artist at Yaya Made Galveston. And today I have another upcycling project for you. Remember, week before last, we made these cute little fringe bags. And these were made out of the pants legs of a pair of jeans. Then last week, we made these cute little pocket purses. And these were made out of the back pockets of the jeans. And these are the double ones that I like so much. And I like them so much, I put them in my Etsy shop. So be sure and check that out. So we've used the legs, we've used the pockets, which means we've used the butt of the jeans. We've got the top of the jeans, quite a bit of that left. So let's use that up and strive for that zero waste thing. What you should have left is the top of the jeans and the back. You have this piece here because we cut the pockets out. Now, we're going to make, let me show you what it's going to look like. Here it is. Famous in the 90s, but updated for the 2021s, 21st century. There you go. It's a little bag that you're gonna wear over your clothes for that music festival or junk show or art festival that you're gonna go to. And let me put this down here. And you don't have to carry a purse because you've got pockets. Now, I would recommend a larger size. This is what fits my waist. So since it's going over my clothes, I'm going to want one that's 2 to 4 inches bigger in the waist. So this is what we're going to be making today. And here we go. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out the rest of the back. And we're going to do as we did before. We're going to cut along the bottom of the yoke and make that go away. Save that because I'll use that someplace else. Okay, so here's what the back looks like. The back is completely open. Now we want to flip it over, and let me lower you a little bit. I'm going to flip it over because we're going to work from the inside. What I do first is I smooth out the pockets, just poke myself with a needle. I smooth out the front pockets and pin them down so I know what I'm working with. What we have is, we have the pockets, we have this fabric on the side, then we have the zipper and the pocket that we smoothed and pinned, and this on the side. Now what we're going to do, and this is our updated fanny pack. What we're going to do is on the bottom and the side, we're going to just flip the fabric over that pocket and stitch it down just to give it more finished look. Now on the side seam, we're not going to be able to do that. most of the time, because the denim is thick, and with our non-commercial machines, there's some things that we just simply can't do. But we're going to give it a more finished look by cutting off the side. Now this is the side seam of the jeans. Here's the front of the jean, so this is the side seam. And on the opposite side, you can see this is a serged seam. We're going to cut right alongside the edge of that serged seam. We're going to cut that off. Don't cut the serge part of it, that layer, just the bottom. What is the bottom now? Okay, so here's what you got. You just cut it off even with that serged seam. And what we're going to do there is we're just going to stitch that down close to the edge, and that's going to eliminate some of the fraying. A little fraying is okay. We don't want it to fray too much. Now on the other side of the pocket is the zipper, which we need to get rid of. So on this side of the pocket and on the bottom, I'm going to want enough fabric that I can fold it over and stitch it to give it that more finished look. Now, if my fabric is not too thick, I want as much as I can get, say about 1 inch. And that way I can fold it over twice and there's no raw edges. But this is fairly thick, so folding it over one time and stitching it is still going to give it a finished look. Hi, Susan. Hi, Linda. And so we're going to clip it. I've already marked. I made some marks because I'm a visual. So right along this seam where the zipper placket is, I've marked in pin because this is the wrong side. And I'm just going to mark down there, and then I'm going to cut it along that line. Up to the waistband, but do not cut through the waistband. Then on the other side of the zipper, we have quite a bit more fabric. So if I wanted 1 inch, I'm just going to use my hammer, and I made my marks at 1 inch and then just continued them straight down. And I'm going to cut that. I'm going to cut all the way to the waistband, but do not cut the waistband. All right, now here's the tricky part, because we're using our good scissors because we're cutting fabric. At the top of the zipper, on this side, on the button side, fortunately for me, that zipper stops just before the waistband starts. So I'm just merely going to cut that away below the waistband, being careful not to hit that zipper because I don't want to ruin my scissors. And so there it is. And that's what it looks like. I've cut that zipper away on that side. On the other side, I have to flip it over because I want to see the metal part of the zipper. And I need to cut. This one, the zipper is all the way up to the waistband and even under that overhang from the stitching. So I'm going to have to be very, very careful not to hit that metal and damage my scissors. So I'm going to use, I have my good scissors, so I'm clipping. Actually, I'm clipped in between the piece of the zipper that was underneath the overhang. I'm sure there's a technical term for that, but overhang is what makes sense to me. And the other piece of the zipper. So there's my zipper, and I'm setting that aside. Maybe I'll figure out a project where we can use the zippers next time. So here we have it. Let me button this up so you can get a picture of what it looks like. No back, and then the zipper is out of the front. You just have the two pockets. Now I've cut away at the side seam here. I'm going to do it on this one. And I'm stopping at the yoke. Do not cut through the yoke. And then I'm cutting off that extra. And I can use that for patchwork, so I'm setting that aside. So there you go. Now, I'm going to unbutton it so I can get it to lay flat. I'm going to lay it out here, and here's what you've got. Let me put it this way so you can see. This is the side seam, and it is a serged side seam. And when I get to stitching, I'm just going to stitch, starting just below where the yoke is, because there's a big glob of fabric there. And then I'm going to stitch that down. So what I'm doing is stitching the front of the jean to that serged seam to give it a more finished look, and so there won't be quite so much fraying. On the other side, I'm going to flip this over and just pin it. Now, this time I'm going to use clips instead of pins because, oh, I forgot to tell you here, sorry. At the waistband, where we have this fabric, that's not quite an inch over here, I need to clip it from the edge over to the edge of the pocket. So it will turn over like that. And since I'm only going to turn it over one time and then 2 times, I'm even going to trim it a little bit more so there won't be quite as much to turn over. Let me do that on both sides. If you want to turn it over twice when you're covering the edge of that pocket, just leave yourself some extra. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. From the edge of this fabric, I'm clipping at the waistband, just below the waistband, over to the pocket. Now, with this particular pair, I had cut off the legs and didn't leave a whole lot of fabric, but that's okay. It's rounded here, and I want square corners. So I'm going to just cut off part of the, you can see my lines, I'm going to cut off part of the pocket. And then I'm going to trim just below that, and that's the fabric that I'm going to fold over and sew. So what I'm going to do is fold this over and clip it just to hold it in place. And at the corner, if we have any quilters, if you want to do a mitered corner, you can do that. You just take the corner piece and fold it into like a triangle, and then fold the side over and clip it, and then fold the bottom over. I'm not a quilter, so my miters don't look as nice as yours, Linda. And so I'm just folding this over and clipping it. Now, if you don't have any of these cute little clips, you can use, I have one here. What happened to it? Oh, here it is. You can use these little office clips, binder clips. Those will work just the same. And so I have it clipped. Put an extra one there. So here's what we're going to do when we go to the machine. We're going to sew down, starting at the just beneath the yoke. We're going to sew this serge seam. We're just going to sew down that to sew the top, the right, the front of the fabric, the front of the pocket to the serge seam. And then we're going to sew down here. Then we're going to sew the hem that we just made and sew back up here. And that's it. That's all the sewing that you're going to do. Of course, you're going to do it on both pockets. Now, I do want to show you something else that you might come across. Not all jeans are created the same. On another pair of jeans that I have here, and I'm going to tell you this because I don't know what your jeans are. On this pair of jeans, I've cut the back out. I haven't cut the zipper out yet. But this seam is a true flat-filled seam. See, on the other side, it's just the stitching. So I'm not going to have to do any sewing on that seam at all. I'm just going to cut it as close to that seam as possible. This is the side seam we're talking about. See, I've cut the side seam away. And it is a finished seam because it is a true flat-filled seam. Look how neat that looks. So you're not going to have to do anything at all to that. You're just going to, like this one, I'll trim the pocket like I did the other one. And cut the zipper out. And then I'll fold it over just like I did this one. Fold up a hem, fold the side hem. Let me go ahead and do this one real quick. Cut off the bottom of that pocket. Cut my fabric so I can have enough just to fold over. Move my pins so they won't be in the way. So here's some more clips. We're just going to clip this. And do my little mitered corner thing. When you do the mitered corner thing, it just cuts down on the bulk. And you quilters, your mitered corners will be much prettier than mine. When I get to the machine, I'll fiddle with it more so it'll set. So that's all we're going to do. We've got everything clipped and we're ready to sew. So let's go to the machine. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is that side seam pocket. We're starting at the yoke area, and I'm just going to sew it down. I'm sewing from the inside of the pocket. I'm sewing from the wrong side of the garment. And all I'm going to do is sew all the way down. Moving this clip. And I've got that turned up, and I'm going to use my tweezers to kind of hold that in place as we get it where we want it. I'm going to leave my needle down. And turn. Trying to keep this out of the way so you can see. And then we're just going to go down the bottom of the pocket where we have that turned up. Removing my clips. And I'm at this corner, and I'm going to finagle it a little bit to try to make it a neater corner. Oh yeah, there we go. That looks better. And I use my tweezers to help hold it. I'm taking a couple of back stitches because I want to get to the edge. I'm sewing as it's turned over. I'm sewing close to this edge, to the raw edge, because I want to eliminate as much fraying as I can since we have a raw edge there, since we chose not to turn it over 2 times. Get my pin out of the way. And so we go. And this is all the way up to just underneath the waistband when we're done here. Okay. And we backstitched to lock it in place. And cut our threads. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And this time, the way my machine is configured, I'll be starting on the front edge, which would have been next to the zipper on this pocket. So I'm starting at the waistband, just underneath the waistband. Get this under here. I use my tweezers a lot, as my second or third hand to get things situated. People use skewers and all kinds of things, just whatever you've got that'll help you get a hold of it. Put my needle down. I'm going to take a few stitches and back stitch, and then we're just sewing along that raw edge. Move some clips. Getting close to the corner, and I want to fool with that miter a little more so it'll be neater. Sometimes easier to do that in progress. There we go. That's better. Use my trusty tweezers to get it just where I want it. And then we're going to turn. And then we're going to sew that bottom hem. Okay, now I'm going to turn it again, and this is my side seam, and that's where I'm again sewing the serge seam down to the front part of the jean that I trimmed away. And I'm doing it on the edge of that serge seam because the idea of doing this is to stop excess fraying. And that is it. We are done sewing. That's all the sewing that you do on this. I'll trim a few threads. Then we're going to go back over to the work table. So let's go. Uh-oh, something happened. Are we still there? Well, hi, Lori. All right, I'm buttoning this puppy up. And here we've got, let me take these pins out because they're shining through there. So here, we just made this. This is your new and improved fanny pack. And this is what it looks like underneath. This is where we sewed that seam, that side seam, the serge seam. And now this isn't coming apart, it's staying there. And then we sewed the hem on the side and on the bottom, on both of them. So there is your finished product. Now we only turned it over one time, so we stitched. When I stitched, this is the raw edge, I stitched close to that raw edge because that will help discourage a lot of fraying. Remember, fraying is in these days, so if you have fraying, you're right on trend. And on this one, these are some that I'm working on. This is a much lighter fabric. It's heavier than a chambray, but it's a very lightweight denim. And so I was able on this one to turn it twice. I had enough fabric to turn it twice, so I'll be able to go all the way around. So this will have a hem on all sides. Another thing to look out for on this pair that I showed you that has We trimmed this away that has the flat felled seam, and so we just trimmed away the fabric, and you already have a finished edge, so you don't have to do anything to this edge. Another reason why we couldn't fold over, besides it being so thick, is because the rivet is right there in the seam. So that's something to look out for. When you get ready to make one of these, or you get ready to upcycle any project, you kind of have to work around the way the piece of clothing is made. So it's got the rivets in the seam, so that's another reason to trim away. Now, even if I had a serge seam here with that rivet, what I would have done if I wanted to sew the serge seam and that piece of fabric on the other side together, I would have just sewed above the rivet and stopped, and then started again and sewed below the rivet. Rivet, brad, whatever you're going to call these things. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're working with jeans or any piece of clothing that you're upcycling into another project. And so that's all I've got for you today. It went very fast. It's a lot of fun, and I enjoy upcycling so much because I hate waste. And I'm glad that you joined me today. Hi, Jan. And if you got here late, watch it on the replay. Follow me on Facebook and YouTube. Like me on Facebook, like the Yaya Made Galveston page on Facebook. I'd appreciate it very much if you would like and comment and share on these videos. And also YouTube, you can like and comment and share. And you can follow me on YouTube, and I'm uploading most of these Facebook Lives to my YouTube channel. It is likewise called Yaya Made Galveston. And then my plug for my Etsy shop, YayaMadeGalveston.etsy.com, where I have handbags. I just put some new handbags on, including the double pocket bags. And I have handbags, and they're all upcycled. And bookmarks and pot tees, plant pot covers, and I also sell sewing patterns. So visit my Etsy shop. You might find something you can't live without. And if not you, tell your friends. Maybe they will. Thank you very much. I'll see you next week. Be safe. Thank you. Lori, we made a new version of fanny packs. See you next week.